Hello and welcome to today's topic. So today's topic for discussion is going to be simplifying numerical expressions and evaluating and simplifying algebraic expressions. So these are going to be your notes. So be sure you are in your notes section. More than likely it is section 2 of your notebook. Be sure to start on a new page and go ahead and put down today's date. And be sure to put down at the top what today's lesson topics are. So please pause the video and record today's topic. Okay, so hopefully you have got the topic down for today, and we're going to start off with 2 vocabulary words, and they are the difference between numerical and algebraic expressions. And so when we talk about a numerical expression is an expression that contains numbers only. And if at any time I'm talking too fast or so forth and you need time to write down the definition, just hit the pause key and don't let me keep talking. Okay, so an example of numerical expressions. So an example that you would have would be something just like 3 plus 4. That would be a numerical expression. Again, it contains numbers only. But it might also be something like 3 squared minus 5 times 2. That could be a numerical expression. Or maybe the absolute value of 3 minus 5. That's numerical. The square root of 4. That would be numerical on there. Again, because each one of these contains a number only. So numerical expressions. And one of the ways that we simplify numerical expressions is by using order of operations. Oops, should be say simplified by order of operations. Okay, using order of operations. And we'll list the order of operations in a little while if we have not already done that. Okay, so what's an algebraic expression? So an algebraic expression is an expression that contains at least one variable. Now, it may contain numbers also, but it has to have a variable. So an example of an algebraic expression might just be x or x plus y. But it could also be something like x plus 3. Okay, those would all be examples. Maybe x squared plus 4x minus 5. Those would be algebraic expressions. It could have a square root, but again, it contains a variable. It could have an absolute value. Again, it contains a variable. So all of those would be algebraic expressions. Now, if we're going to simplify algebraic expressions, we usually do those by what we say is adding like terms. And again, we'll talk more about that later on. Okay, so as we said, to simplify numerical expressions, we're going to use our order of operations. Most people, when they think of order of operations, the first thing they'll tell me is that the first step is parentheses, which is true. But what I want you to recognize is that parentheses are not the only grouping symbols that we could use. Okay? So you might have parentheses, but you could also have the brackets. You could have parentheses within brackets. We might also consider the absolute value as a grouping symbol. So an example of that might be if we have something like the absolute value of maybe 3 squared minus 5, absolute value. And in that case, it is grouping those together. Now, there could be some other stuff out beside, like minus 4. So that would be, again, a grouping of that. Now, I apologize for my kind of not clear PowerPoint there. I think it's the internet. Another grouping symbol that we might think of is the square root. That could actually be a grouping symbol, because if we have a numbers within the square root, so again, something like that's 3 squared minus 5, and there could be maybe a 4 minus out in front of it, that would mean, again, to do what is under the radical first. So not only are parentheses the only grouping symbols, but we could have multiple. Okay, the next one most kids will say is exponents, and that is definitely true. Exponents would be the next step within there, but I want you to also recognize something that most of you are not familiar with, which is the radical. So what I mean by the radical would be like the square root of, or it could be the cube root, sum root. And so, again, just something to remember, if you have the square root of 4, let's say, then the exponent on the 4 is 1. Since it's square root, this is an understood 2. So we could really write this as 4 to the 1/2 power. And as you go into higher math, you will actually see it written that way. Another example might be if you have the cube root of 8. So cube root, this number is 1, and so that would be 8 to the 1/3. Now on the next one, we talked about this in class because a lot of kids will say multiplication and division, but I do want you to take away the and. We're not going to use the word and, but we want to use the word or. Because as I said, in algebra, there is a big difference between the word and or. And we'll talk more about that in detail. So it is multiplication or division comes next. And the way we decide which one that is by left to right. So whichever one occurs, left to right. So it's multiplication or division, whichever one occurs first, left to right. And in the same way, don't say addition and subtraction. We say addition or subtraction. And again, from left to right. And we'll have pretty much a whole lesson here, not too long, over just the importance of and or, and when you use one over the other. Okay. So that's going to finish up your vocabulary words for now. Still in our notes section, we are going to do your I do's and the we do problems. So stay still within section 2 and go to the next video.